Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast, where empathy meets action in the world of leadership. Your host, Gino DeGregory, engages with innovators and seasoned professionals from diverse sectors, all demonstrating the power of leading with kindness. And now, your host, Gino DeGregory.
Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Gino DeGregory. Today, we have another amazing guest with us. Jessica King is the CEO of GeoSisu. I've known Jessica for many years now, and I really like her leadership style. She leads with kindness and cares about people around her. I'm looking forward to learning more about you today, Jessica. So if you can share with our audience who you are and your background, please.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be here. My background goes, I've been in the intelligence community for about 25 years.
Wow.
I grew up in the state of Arkansas. I grew up on a farm. I grew up the oldest of 6 children. All of these are important to who I am today, right? Where I came from, who taught me to think of leadership, how to be a leader at home. When you're the oldest of 6 children, you take on a lot of responsibilities, and I learned quickly how to delegate, how to help, and how to be a part of a family that was raised on a farm where we grew our own food, had our own cattle,
Right.
and I grew up in a very religious home.
Wow.
So those are sort of the basic foundational pieces of myself. But, you know, as a child, I was always a very curious person, and I often was told I was the casual or the curious observer, and I was always observing people and how they related to nature or how they related to other people, trying to figure out, you know, how do I fit in? How do I belong? How do I get people to like me? You know, I think that's what you do when you're a child,
Right.
because, you know, you want to be in a place where people like you. At least that was for me personally. Right. And this story kind of leads into my story of I went to school to be a geography degree, and in college. And after college, I found an internship at a small engineering firm called FTN Associates, and I read about them on the cover of the Arkansas Gazette.
Okay.
Democratic Gazette. And I heard that they were doing GIS, and so I thought, okay, I want to be different. So I found their address, and that Monday morning, I got there at 7 a.m. I sat in the parking lot. I went over to the reception, and I sat there and said, I'd like to meet the person who's running GIS.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, well, he's not in right now. He usually gets in around 10 o'clock. And I was like, that's fine. I'll sit here and wait. So I did. And he was so impressed that I read it in the newspaper and then came and sat that he gave me the job on the spot. And that was my first internship. And I think I learned how to do things like that by being industrious and curious as a child, because when you don't have a lot, you know, I once told a good friend of mine, when my pants became too short, I turned them into shorts,
Oh, wow.
right? You know, so it was always just, you know, you always kind of create new ways of thinking.
Right.
And I have always thought this was a way in which I wanted to lead a company. So in time, I was a GIS manager, and then I grew up through the intelligence community. I was recruited to come to DC. I was a GIS manager. From that internship, I became a GIS manager of a city. I wrote a grant to the ESRI, and from there, I then was granted this grant, and I was asked to speak at San Diego in like 1999, and I went and I spoke about how we restored the city from an F4 tornado using GIS and GPS.
Wow.
That moment changed my life fundamentally, and from that point on, I was recruited, and I moved from Arkansas to D.C. I packed up my little house, and I moved to D.C., and I'd never really driven on a road that had 4 lanes before.
Wow.
You know, I grew up in a very rural area, so moving into D.C. was a big change, and it was a change for the better. But with that, your original question is you know, who is GeoCiso, and I created the company around the mantra of I love to see people grow and businesses grow abundantly. So people and businesses growing abundantly has been my mantra in building GeoCiso. Again, I moved through the ranks on the IC. I started as a GIS manager. I started as a project manager. Then I navigated my way up to be a vice president, and I learned the essence of how to grow a contract. And then before long, it was very easy for me, very natural way to grow business. And fundamentally, it all comes down to how you treat someone. And that is where kindness has been, I would say, an element in my life that has brought me to where I'm at today. Is I learned kindness at a young age. I learned kindness with my siblings. I learned kindness from my mother. My mother is an incredible woman, a nurse. I watched her do countless acts for people around our small town. And, I recently heard that when you witness someone being kind, your serotonin raises, and you are receiving that feeling and that raise of kindness just in observing. And so I believe that I was very fortunate to have a very kind mother and to witness her kindness around our community as she was a nurse and helping so many people at the beginning of their lives all the way to the end of their lives. So that was sort of the cornerstone of really understanding and learning the importance of kindness. But sometimes I believe kindness is an element that maybe you're born with, and then you learn it just naturally perfects over time as it comes through you. I think it's an essence of love, really, truly.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, if we have guests, they correlate that kindness with love, with caring. It's amazing, your story, and congratulations for all your success, for sure. And I wasn't aware that you grew up in a farm. That's amazing. My wife grew up in a farm too. And I was like, there's the most kindness people because they're hard workers too. Just because you get up, you gotta, do the things. Nobody's going to do it for you, right?
Yes, we would get up. We would, 5 a.m., we had to feed the cows.
Right.
We were up feeding the cows and then running and having our breakfast and then running to the school bus, right?
Exactly.
Making sure all my siblings were ready to go to help my mom. But, in that, you learn quickly I was just really lucky to have kind people around me to teach me how to be kind.
That's amazing. Yeah. So with that, the first question that I ask all my guests outside of your background is, what does kind leader mean to you? And I think you started describing some of that, but if you can, what does that mean to you?
Absolutely. A kind leader to me is someone who first listens, takes the time to hear your story, understands your personality, understands that everyone is coming from a unique perspective, a unique place, and having grace in understanding that person. And kindness to me as a leader is giving space for someone to be their authentic self and not judging them, allowing them to be them. Whether it's a positive attribute or a negative attribute that they're displaying or becoming. From a leadership perspective with kindness, I believe that having the ability to see the person as a whole and understand that they are a sum of all their experiences, and then approaching them with it's almost a state of acceptance.
Okay.
And learning about them. So it's those attributes of a kind leader has the ability, has strong empathy, has the ability to listen, step back, assess, and then speak.
Right. So really getting to know, and it doesn't have to be employees under you. It could be colleagues. It could be your boss on top, right? It's like truly being empathetic, but also understanding where they come from, where they, their beliefs and what takes them, and because the more you understand and care, I think the better you can communicate.
Absolutely.
Get your point across or get the mission. You know what I mean? Because I think I've said this before. I think what I've heard is a quote is like, conversations create relationships, or communication create relationships. It's all about the communication. But you can't communicate if you don't understand what you want to communicate and how the other person may perceive it or not, right?
Yes, yes. I think kind leaders are always forging forward to know more.
Right.
Get more information. Understand the bigger picture
Right.
versus quickly coming to a conclusion without collecting all the information.
Absolutely.
Kindness gives someone space and time and the ability to respond respectfully.
Yes, absolutely. I agree 100%. So with that, can you share a story of kind leadership?
I had a very interesting situation probably about 20 years ago. And this gentleman, he has recently passed. He was in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
And I happened to be sitting next to him on an airplane. I was going from Rochester to D.C., and the plane was full with NFL alumni. They had been there for a golf tournament.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, I watch a lot of football, but I'm not the first one to recognize a Super Bowl ring or, something of that caliber. I was, young and just, I had spent the weekend with a good friend of mine. Her whole family went up to that area, and we had a fun summer. But the gentleman sitting next to me, as he sat next to me, he asked me a couple of questions about me, and he was extraordinarily kind to me.
Wow.
He was someone of great importance. He was in the Hall of Fame. And what I learned in that conversation was his story about what he had experienced as a Black American in the NFL, rising to hit all of his goals in life, and then retiring and then starting a life of his own with his family and being productive. But that conversation with him was a conversation I will always remember, because he was someone who was very famous, but yet had the most kind conversation with me, talking to me about how I can be successful.
Wow.
And at the time, I was just a GIS analyst, and he found it was so interesting. He was using MapQuest. That was way back when.
Right.
For those who don't know what MapQuest is, take a look. And he was just kind of giving me his insights on how he used maps and such. But the important words he said to me was this: no matter how much adversity comes your way, if you're kind, you can always surpass it. And he goes, what I mean by being kind is finding a way around it, putting up a shield to defend any criticism that comes to you, because he goes, the biggest thing you need to know is that when someone is criticizing you, it's not you, it's them.
Yep.
And if you can walk through this world where you have the ability to realize when negativity comes your way that it is not about you. You might be receiving it. He goes, but block it, just like I would block when,
That's great.
from them. And so he and I's relationship continued. I went to Redskins games with him, met his family, and he was just a wonderful man. And it was one of those moments where you just never know who you're going to sit next to, and you never know the power of kindness of an individual that you sit next to and how they can shape and change your life. Yeah. And I really took that moment to try to implement that in my own life, that you just never know who you're going to meet. And when you share kindness in leadership and personal relationships and with everyday strangers, you will live a life of abundance. You will live on a level that most people say, how in the world did you get where you're at today?
Yeah,
You came from a farm with no money and you waited tables to get through college. Absolutely. I mean, that's what I had to do. But in the back of my mind, I've always had dreams and vision of where I wanted to go. But along the way, kindness has always been something that's important to me.
Been a fundamental, as foundation, right?
Yes.
Of who you are and your character. And
Absolutely.
that is an amazing story. And thank you for sharing,
Yes.
Jessica. And sorry for your loss there with,
Yes.
with the gentleman has been in your life impacted, right? It's the impact that he made just for a brief conversation, sharing his life, right? And then it became a nice relationship, right? And a couple of things that you were sharing there that kind of got me thinking about a few things. You're right about folks that are giving you that negativity or projecting onto you. It's one quote that I heard in the past is, hurt people hurt people. You know what I mean?
I love that statement, and I use that often, and it's so true.
Yeah.
It is so true. And being kind to a hurt person
Yes.
can cure them, can help them. And that is actually a tool that I use often when someone is coming at me aggressively or is saying something that is absurd or off. It just is not kind, right? Is that I have learned that I can respond with this same
Love energy.
level of energy,
Yeah.
and that note goes nowhere.
Right.
But when I just step back and say, okay, I love you, I care about you,
Right.
and I'm sorry you feel that way,
Right.
but that's not how I feel.
Right.
And I hope things are better for you.
Right.
But I love that. It is so true. Hurt people.
Yeah.
And I do believe kindness is the cure to that.
Absolutely. It's like, the light versus the dark, right?
Yes.
When you show the light, you brighten the, that room or the area. So
Yes.
the only way to get past a lot of the stuff is to, yes, it's easy to react. Somebody punches you, you want to punch back. Somebody says something back, you want to say something back,
Yes.
right? But that is meeting them at that level of negativity energy that is not going to go anywhere. It really is not. It's that it's going to be blocked and it's not going to create. It's actually taken away. So from what I learned in my experiences, you either walk away or you can give them the love or try to understand too. It's like, okay, well, I talk to people a lot about this, by the way. It's like you're sitting across from me and there's a number in between us. I can see a number 9, but you see a number 6, right?
Yes.
And it's perspective. And a lot of people, we live our own life through our own eyes. The way I wake up and I see the world is different than how you wake up and you see the world, based on how you grew up, your beliefs, and everything like that, right? So I will never understand where you're coming from or anybody coming from. I can try, and the only way to try is through empathy and to try to understand and to try to communicate and to try to build those relationships, right? But sometimes, like I said earlier, hurt people, and there's nothing you can do to change somebody. You can only try to understand and make the
Yes.
situation better, like you
Yes.
said, with love, and be like, okay, here's what I can contribute.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I mean, from a perspective of, when you're leading with kindness and you meet adversity. I will say I'm somebody who has a tender heart. So when I listen to the gentleman tell me that really great wisdom, that nugget, I apply it on a regular basis so that I won't be as tenderhearted. But oftentimes, I would say in my career, I was told I was too kind. I was too nice, that I gave people too much room. I allowed them to have too many excuses. And in time, I started to realize that was my superpower. It wasn't my weakness. It is not my weakness. It is my power.
absolutely.
And when you stand in the power of kindness, I actually believe, and I heard a recent study, and I do not have the details on that study, but the study talked about empathy and its relationship to kindness, but it's another level of intelligence. Oftentimes in our industry, in the space, in the geo industry, there are brilliant people everywhere, brilliant. The best minds I'm surrounded by the best minds. And I often say, I'm not the smartest one in the room, but I'm the kindest, and I'm going to help figure everything out.
Right.
I'm going to bring everyone together to talk about the idea, to discover the idea, to put that idea on paper, and then help you execute it. That's the gift that I bring. And for me personally, the best way to solve that problem and bring everyone together is with kindness.
Yeah.
Because when you approach with kindness, you're more likely to respond to me.
Right.
But if I approach in a way in which I'm condescending or feeling less than, then you're not going to share with me your idea.
Right.
So I've learned how to use kindness as my superpower and use it in a way that helps others and helps new ideas generate and new ways of being and new products and new solutions that solve our nation's biggest challenges from an adversarial perspective, right? How do we keep our nation safe?
Absolutely.
And a lot of different ideas go into that, right?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I love that. Kindness is your superpower. And I can see that. And it's amazing because it's that we talked about before we started talking, we talk about frequency, high level of frequency, right? Because, everything is energy, and kindness and empathy and the way you treat others brings that level of erases the frequency and allows you to get into a flow almost, right? In a way that you are able to create better solutions, technology or whatever it is that you're trying to solve, right? To solve those problems. And is that state, I usually say, because when you're looking at the world from this perspective of what can I do to help? What can I do to lead with kindness, right? What are the things is one of the questions that I ask myself is like, is the world happening to me or am I happening to the world?
That's profound. If you can have, yes. I mean, I think that's a profound way of thinking. And what is your answer?
And exactly is I am experiencing this world right now. So I'm able to create, right, the things that I want to do here, that what I'm supposed to do here, right? And creating this platform is one of my things that I'm here to do, to communicate, to share with this world, and hopefully we can start influencing people to lead with kindness, lead with empathy, right? And people start seeing the world is happening to me. They're like, well, I can't do this because of this. I can't do this because of that. They see the world in a huge adversity, and it's not allowing them to do things. But if you shift that mindset to be like, I am happening to the world. I am creating the things that I want to create. I'm kind and I can lead with kindness, and nobody's going to take advantage of me, because if it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out, and we move on to other things, right?
Yes.
And that is my answer. I'm curious on your thoughts about that.
Absolutely. I believe the world is happening for me, not against me.
Yep.
And I think it is a profound shift in the way in which you think and the way you perceive. Example, if someone hits my car, I think it happened. What is going on? The world's against me.
Right, exactly.
No, it happened for me. And maybe I needed to look, and maybe it was a sign for me to be a little bit more cautious, to be more present. Because I wasn't present in that moment when that happened. Right. It was happening for me so that I can move forward in a way in which I need to. And whatever was happening to me at that point in time, that's just an example. But for me, I'm constantly saying to myself, life is happening for me. Yeah. It's for me.
That's right.
And I say it often. And I often say, all good things are happening for me. Yep. But going back to the comment you made about frequency, there is an author, Dr. David Hawkins. He has written quite a few books, and one of his books really focuses on different vibrational levels that actually can heal your body.
Wow.
Example is, he states that when you are in the level of service, it is your highest frequency. So when you're in the space where you're helping others and giving in a servant modality, you are at your highest vibration of happiness and the ability to receive the goodness that you've been storing up and wanting in your life. But in that level of servant, being a servant and helping others, your vibration is at the highest. When we are doubting ourselves or feeling bad about ourselves, we're at our lowest frequency, and we will not receive the things that we believe we are supposed to receive. It's work, and we have to work through the levels. And he talks about the different levels of raising your frequency, and it's very simplistic, such as think on a positive thought, think of a memory that brought you happiness. Bringing yourself out of this place of a negative thought, I'm not good enough, or I didn't do this correctly. You can stop, you can pause, you can turn on music. I turn on music to change my frequency. If I'm not doing well, I love classical music. I'll turn on classical music.
Nice.
And it immediately puts me in a new headspace and a new place where I can now be of service to others. So I really tried to be in that servant space. I'll give you another example. I was going through a tough time in my life, and I was just having such a tough time trying to figure out how can I get back to this place of happiness, this, what did I need to solve within myself to get there? Because no one can bring me that happiness but me. No outside circumstance can. It is within myself and my source.
Absolutely.
And once that is solved, then all the good things in life start to come to you. And so I went back to the book I was reading, David Hawkins' book, and I started to remember, oh yes, the phases. I need to be moving through this phase. And I just impromptu made a day of kindness. Bring your favorite sandwich. Bring a bag of sandwiches we can give to the homeless. So that Saturday, I filled a bag full of sandwiches, chips, water, and I just walked around the streets of DC and just handed them to people. Just a smile, and here you go. When I got home that day, I definitely had that kindness high, that servitude high of, now I am in the place that I need to be, and how do I stay here? Right. And so I do this. I try to do these kindness days as much as I can. And sometimes they're very impromptu. It could be the person on the corner that's selling flowers.
Right.
And they're for $5. I'm going to give them $20 and take it, and then give it to someone else. Just trying to come up with ways to help bring happiness to others in simplistic ways is important for me. And that's where I can raise that vibration to help others and to be in this state for creativity and flow.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I think high vibration, and everything is energy, right? We're energy. We got our DNA, everything, right? It's like our molecules, and it's just vibrating, right? And it's either vibrating to the highest level, or you're vibrating to a lower level where you are not going to be able to do the things or get the things that you want. You have to be at the highest level, and it starts with serving, it starts with caring, it starts with working with others. And that's amazing what you're doing. Thank you very much for creating those days of giving, almost, right? And where you're helping the homeless or other people. But it also starts at work or even at home. Listening or saying words are powerful, and communicating and sharing some of that's making an impact and helping others too, getting their vibration to be higher too, right? Yes.
And you know what? Some days I fail, right? I mean, I can talk about kindness all day, but there are some days that I fail. And then that is, the route I work through to get back to the state of kindness, the state of helping, is when I do fail, I will center myself, and I'll think about what happened. I will take accountability for my actions, apologize, and move forward. Because I would love to be kind all the time, and I strive to be kind. But there are days that I mess up, and there are days where I don't hit that caliber. And I think that's an important story too, because so many people are like, okay, I don't think I'm very kind. And I often say to them, oh, you're so much kinder than you realize. You have a kind heart. You look, find the joy in a plant, in a flower. From that, you'll start to feel that kindness coming up.
Absolutely.
And put it into an act.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have it, and then I love what you said is we're not perfect. I'm not at the highest vibration or there's days I'm tired. There's days that, or the world is happening for me to experience, different things, right? And some days there's like, oh my gosh, did that really happen? I just feel defeated, or they feel like I failed, right? And it's like, all right, you're not those feelings, or you're not those emotions. You're the awareness of those feelings, of emotions, right? And that's a big thing.
Correct.
That's a big thing that people don't realize.
Yes.
You're the awareness. You're not those feelings that are happening to you. And that took me a while. I actually learned that maybe 4 years ago through the pandemic. And, through my doing a lot of meditation, it's like your feelings and your emotions are not who you are, and they don't define you. You need to be the awareness and understand that those are things that are just happening along, in your path. So,
yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, so I love that. The vibration. Definitely want to let me know what the name of the book is, David Hawkins, and we'll definitely want to put it in the show notes here to share with folks, because that is a good thing as it relates to how we want to vibrate in this world. So, a few more questions before love talking, and we can talk all day. Want to make sure we keep it within the time here. What is your vision for future leaders? Where do you think we're going?
I think we're at a crossroads from a political leadership perspective right now. We are seeing a change from the masculine to the feminine. And then I think the vision is that it's a balance, that, one pendulum swings to one side, then it goes back to the other, and then it starts to move slowly to the middle. And I believe we've seen a big swing from a very masculine leadership world, and we're seeing now a lot more feminine concepts being interjected into the leadership discussions, into leaders. But I do think it will swing to the middle to create a balance. Yeah. I do believe the balance had been very masculine for thousands of years. So my perspective is I have enjoyed seeing the swing more on the feminine, enabling women to have more leadership positions, enabling them to have a voice. And it also in the meantime, as we've seen this change, I've also seen men move into their authentic selves and actually speak up in ways I've never heard them speak before. And they're stepping into their power too, right? So I do believe the vision of leadership in the next 5 to 10 years will be a very balanced, a very authentic place where leaders have the ability to vocalize who they are, to bring life lessons to the leadership. Now, I've always been a fan of Dale Carnegie and how to win and influence friends. And I believe he wrote that in early 1900s, right? And when you read the book, it's pretty thin. Yeah. It's great because it is talk to people about who they are, learn about them. And then I think along the way, some of his core message has been lost, but I feel like it's being rejuvenated again. And I often go back to that book and read it. And every time I read it, I see something new. It's because I'm in a different place and a different message comes to me. Right. So in my perspective, the future of leadership is a composition of creating a place of belonging just as you are, a place of acceptance, a place of empathy, and a place to grow. I love when people say, if you have a plant and you tell that plant for 30 days, I love you, it will bloom, it will prosper, it will grow. If you tell the plant for 30 days that you dislike it, it will shrivel up and it will die. Yep. I believe the leadership of the future will be the leadership where you are empowering people and enabling them to be prosperous like a plant. Yep. And it is the principles of caring, empathy, kindness, acceptance, and belonging. Absolutely. Not belonging to be like someone else. Right. It's very important. It is the acceptance of who you are, so therefore you belong. Right. And you're there because you matter.
Yeah.
And you're bringing something new to the team. I do believe we're in a spiritual revolution, and I do believe people are becoming more in touch with who they are and the power of the mind and what the mind can bring. I think we're just tapping into our abilities to manifest, to create visions that come to life. And in teaching that within a business, could only bring more growth-minded people and growth to the business. And those principles are what I have interjected into my company, GeoSisu, because I believe in growth. I believe that growth comes from the CEO. You know, every company that I work with, and I work with a lot of different companies, the company is based on that CEO, what that CEO brings, the culture that he or she brings to the table, their mindset every day. It sets the pace for the team. Being a growth-minded person will create a growth-minded business, in my perspective. So that's where I see the future on the vision of leadership.
You said so much. I love it. It was great. There's so many
I'm
things.
passionate about it.
I want to pull
now I'm like,
threads.
I'm really passionate about it.
We may have to come back another
Okay.
time to talk about just that, because you talk about so many great things. But the gist of it, that I'll just put my two cents in it. I agree 100% in everything you said, especially from a leadership perspective, right? You got to keep watering and talking to and creating that growth mindset in the organization, empowerment, empathy, and allowing people to truly grow, be themselves, right?
Yes.
Give them the opportunity to drive and grow the things that they want to do. There's going to be accountability always, right?
Yes.
And that's how you counterbalance being too kind or being too nice with accountability. You have to, you still got to deliver value to our customers. You got to still deliver value to everything that you're doing, right? At the end of the day. And you can do it with kindness. You can do it with working together, rising together is what I say. So amazing things. And that I see that, and we're doing our part here, trying to build an organization here, but also communicate who we are and how we're doing it and how your company is doing the same things. And I appreciate that.
Well, it has been an incredible, I have had the opportunity to work with you. So I have been able to witness your greatness. And I've had the ability to see how you implement within your company growth, empathy, kindness, and a place where people are themselves.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that. Two more questions here. So what does success mean to you?
This is always such a tough question for me because I kind of I go between two important topics. But success for me is feeling good at the end of the day, knowing that I'm loved, I love, and that tomorrow is a new day for me to go and create.
Love it. Love it. Great answer. This is a fun question now. If you could have coffee with anyone alive or from the past, who would it be and why?
I would love to have coffee with Gandhi.
Gandhi, wow, okay.
And in that coffee, I would ask Gandhi, all of us know a little bit about his story, but not all of his story. And I would ask him, what were the traits that you had to shed to become the man that you became? And how did you move past your ego? How did you move past these traits to be a man of peace, to stand in a place where you sacrificed who you were to become this great person that showed kindness and empathy and helped thousands of people.
Right.
So I would just love to hear about his heart. Like, who are you on the inside? Tell me your story.
Exactly.
That's what I'd love to hear. Someone of that kind of capacity that moved communities and people and a country.
Right.
I'm just fascinated. And he embodied to me kindness.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will tag along for sure. Love to be right there next to you and listen. So where can your listeners find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, right? Just Jessica King at LinkedIn. You can look at geosisu.com. You can learn about our team and what we offer.
Awesome.
And those are two really quick ways to find me.
Excellent, excellent. Any final thoughts here for our audience?
I will leave you with, for each person who's listening today, to be kind to yourself. We all mess up. It's okay to reset. Every day is a new day. Yep. And I'd always say God's there tomorrow. But that in your daily life, pause and give yourself grace. So I'll leave with that.
Beautiful. Well said, Jessica. Thank you very much. I do appreciate your time. It's been a great talk this morning. A lot of great things. I got to know you a little bit more too, and I'm sure our audience here really appreciate it. So thank you all for continuing to listen. Please subscribe, share. Let me know of any feedback that you guys might have out there as well. And with that, be kind, bring value, rise together. Take care, everybody.